Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. प्यारे बच्चों इस पर फोटोसिंथेसिस में फोटोसिंथेसिस में चाहे चोर चीज लगा जरूरत नंबर 1 कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड नंबर 2 water number 3 sunlight and number 4 is that is green coloring pigment chlorophyll present in the chloroplast of leaves. Now the process of photosynthesis is completed in two major phases or two major stages. That is process of photosynthesis. Process of photosynthesis. The process of photosynthesis is completed in two major steps. Number 1, photochemical phase. Photochemical phase or light dependent phase because it is depend on light energy. Light dependent phase or some people call it as light reaction. Light reaction. And second phase, that is biosynthetic phase. Biosynthetic phase or light independent phase. Light independent phase or some people call it as dark reaction. And as the word indicates, this phase occurs in presence of sunlight, and this phase occurs in absence of sunlight. That means this is the first phase which occurs in presence of sunlight, and it is wholly and solely depend on sunlight. But this phase, whether sunlight is available or not, this phase occurs. It is light independent phase. That's why it occurs in night when there is no light. First we will learn about photochemical phase. This photochemical phase, as the name indicates, it occurs in presence of light. And this very phase occurs on the surface of thylakoids. Thylakoids of grana of chloroplasts. Now, question arises here. What is chloroplast? What are thylakoids? What are grana? And in order to understand these three questions, we have to cut the transverse section of leaf, that is photosynthetic organ, where photosynthesis occurs. That means we have to take the transverse section of leaf so as to understand these questions. It is a plant body that is having elaborate root system, and then you have a shoot system which consists of photosynthetic organ in the form of leaves, and of the formation of leaves, this plant form flowers as well as it form storage organs in the form of fruits. But for the process of photosynthesis, leaves are involved. We can take this leaf as like this. This leaf is having a vascular body in the form of mid-vein or midrib. Then in case of dicots, you have a reticulate type of venation which having number of veins or valets. Then when we cut the transverse section of leaf so as to study its anatomy, it can be seen as like this. This leaf having upper surface in the form of upper epidermis. And outside the upper epidermis, you have a layer of cuticle that is made up of cutin. It's a waxy coating on the surface of leaf so as to prevent excessive transpiration. You have a cuticle and you have an upper epidermis. Then this upper epidermis is followed by mesophyll tissue, which is differentiated into two types of cells. Mesophyll tissue is differentiated into two types of cells. One is called as palisade parenchyma. And second group of cells is called spongy parenchyma. This is mesophyll tissue where photosynthesis occurs, where photosynthesis takes place due to the presence of mesophyll tissue, which is differentiated into palisade and spongy parenchymal cells. That's why we call them as chlorocymatous cells, means that those cells which contain chloroplasts. We call them as chlorocymatous cells. And mesophyll tissue is the tissue in leaves where photosynthesis occurs. That means in a leaf you have only one tissue, that is mesophyll tissue, where photosynthesis occurs. Now, if we take either this cell or this cell into consideration so as to study chloroplasts, which are within these chlorocymatous cells. If we take this cell, that is this cell, it's having number of chloroplasts in them. For example, you have one chloroplast here. It is a spongy parenchyma cell. It's a spongy parenchyma cell having chloroplast. Now we have to study the structure of chloroplast. Actually, we want to go where photosynthesis occurs. That's why I take chloroplast outside like this. We take chloroplast like this, and when we see the electron micrograph of chloroplast, it is seen as double membranous structure. Outside you have outer envelope or outer membrane. Then you have an inner envelope or inner membrane. Inner membrane. Then between the two you have a space called as intermembrane space. Intermembrane space. Then inside this intermembrane space you have stakes of piles of coin. You have stakes of piles of coin. This is one stake of piles of coin. It's called granum. 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 And this granum is made up of stake of piles of coin. It's called as stake of thylakoids. That means each structure of this is called thylakoid, and the whole structure which is made up of number of thylakoids is called granum, and there are number of grana in the chloroplast. And these grana are interconnected by structures called as interconnection. We call them as stroma lamellae. Stroma lamellae, or some people also call it as thread channels. Thread channels. Thread channels. Thylakoid, and whole is called as granum, and there are number of grana in the chloroplastis, and these grana are interconnected by stroma lamellae or thread channels. Now I will come to the first question. I will come to our question, that is where photochemical reaction takes place. Photochemical reaction takes place on the surface of means here surface of thylakoids of grana of chloroplastis. That means here if it's a single grana, it's a single thylakoid. This thylakoid is having a space inside that's called thylakoid lumen, and then you have a membrane that's called as thylakoid membrane. Thylakoid membrane. Where photochemical reaction occur? Here, that is on the surface of thylakoids of grana of chloroplast. Photochemical phase. Photochemical reaction or photochemical phase takes place. कहाँ पे हो रहा है? This thylakoid membrane, it bears pigment systems in the form of photosystem first, PS first, it in the form of second, that is PS second, photosystem second. It also bears third one, that is light harvesting complexes. It also bears, that is cytochrome complexes. It also bears another one that's called as ATP synthase. All these 5 components, 2, 3, 4, and 5, they are present on the surface of thylakoids of grana chloroplastis, where photochemical reaction takes place. And where second phase of photosynthesis takes place? It is in this phase here. That is, these grana are suspended in a watery matrix, that is cytoplasm of this chloroplast, and that very cytoplasm is called here, right here. That very site is called as stroma. 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 It's the stroma of chloroplast, that is cytoplasm of chloroplast, where biosynthetic phase or dark reaction takes place, because it contains all the necessary enzymes necessary for reduction of carbon dioxide into carbohydrates. Now I will come to the first question. That means here you have photosystem first. Here you have photosystem second. Then you have light harvesting complexes. Then you have ATP synthase. Then you have cytochrome complex. These are present on the surface of thylakoids of grana chloroplast. Now I will come to the first question, that is, during photochemical reaction, what happens? What happens? Two things are produced. One is adenosine triphosphate and second one is NADPH plus H positive plus. During light reaction, there is also photolysis of water, and that gives rise to oxygen. That means output of photochemical reaction is ATP reducing power in the form of NADPH plus H positive and nascent oxygen. And these three components, they are formed through two subphases. That is, photochemical reactions further divide into two subphases on the basis of production of ATP reducing power, that is adenosine NADPH plus H positive, and oxygen. On that basis, photochemical phase is divided into two phases. One is called as cyclic photophosphorylation and second is called as non-cyclic photophosphorylation. And in cyclic photophosphorylation, only ATP is produced. How? That I will learn later on. But how? And during non-cyclic photophosphorylation, there is production of ATP and NADPH plus H positive, as well as there is a photolysis of water that gives rise to oxygen. And then second phase of photosynthesis, that's called as biosynthetic phase, which occur when ATP reduces power in the form of NADPH plus H positive. They are ready in biosynthetic phase, which occur in the stroma of chloroplast, wherein carbon dioxide is fixed. Carbon dioxide is reduced with the help of reducing power into carbohydrates. And this reduction of carbon dioxide into carbohydrate, it may occur either through Calvin cycle, as in case of C3 plants, or it may occur both by Calvin cycle as well as another cycle that's called as C4 cycle or Hatch and Slack cycle. Hatch and Slack cycle, also called as C4 cycle, and this is also called as C3 cycle. It occurs in C3 plants, it occurs in C4 plants, and in both the process, carbon dioxide is reduced into carbohydrates utilizing assimilatory power, that is ATP and NADPH plus H positive, that is produced during light reaction. I hope you understand this question nicely. Inshallah, in the next time, we will come with a real study about the photosynthesis. Till then, good day, have a good night. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.